I'm going to call this meeting to order, the monthly commission meeting for March 3rd, 2025. First of all, we have the meeting minutes. Does anyone have any additions or questions from last month's meeting minutes? Okay, if there's no questions or additions or edits to the meeting minutes, may I have a motion to accept the meeting minutes?
I move to accept them.
Right, may I have a second?
I second.
Okay, all in favor of accepting the meeting minutes, please say aye or put it in the chat.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next on our agenda is public comment. I don't see anyone right now. Did you have anyone, Rachel, in where you are?
Sorry, the mute. There's no one here except staff members here in the conference room. I know that we had one person that was interested in joining and we got her the link for that earlier today, but I don't see her yet. So maybe if she pops in, she can give her comment then.
Absolutely. So in the interest of moving forward, we can always go back to public comment and give another option at the end. So the committees, do we have anyone from the finance committee? I don't think that we do. And I know, I'm not sure if the personnel committees there, usually Liddy gives this report as well.
Can I just ask real quick on the finance piece, and this may not be someone who can answer it, are the anticipated budget cuts that are occurring in real time right now, do they have any impact on us? Do we receive any federal funding? Basically is my question.
Rachel, do you want to take that?
We do receive federal funding. Our contracts are secure for now. They have cut, I mean, they cut the grant funding from the EEOC early on. Even last year, they had let us know that would be cut for this year. And I believe it was just to compensate for the increase in the number of cases that they had to pay out. So our contracts are secure. The only thing that we're looking at potentially being cut at this moment is the community development block grant funding. And we're still just waiting to hear. So as of now, the commission is fine.
How much is the CDBG funds?
It varies year to year. We were supposed to get back on track with our 100,000 per year to push towards affirmatively furthering fair housing. But I honestly don't know if that's going to come through. It was allocated in their plan for last year, but we won't know until closer to August when those funds are allocated.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I know the personnel, I don't have any updates from that. I'm not on that committee. Community relations has been up to a couple of things, but is there anyone on who would like to give a report? Okay, I'm going to defer to Rachel again or to Chris. We want to switch it up just on some of the community relations information, if you have any, or we can move on to the director's report if you'd prefer.
Okay, sorry. Maybe we should just have Rachel do it.
Wow, we're winning today with technology. Sorry, we're reconfigured over here. So with community relations, we're continuing to explore the issues that are essentially trickling down from the federal sector, and the things that we can do to be supportive of our neighbors and the community groups. So we did have a number of staff and commissioners that are involved in various things throughout the community to be supportive. We had one of our staff members go and do a legal clinic for power of attorney and estates, so that if anyone is experiencing like the threats of deportation, have a bit more security. And we have seen some things in the way of like name change clinics as well for our folks in the gender identity and expression realm. Let me pull up the rest of the minutes because I'm blanking right now on what those were. Forward with our
Really good
homelessness.
minutes. Yeah.
What's that?
They are really good minutes too. I read them and I was at the meeting and I was like, oh, good job.
Hey, the meeting. Oh, the shield laws. Yeah. So we're looking at the county shield law and seeing how that might be beneficial to us here in the city. Too many things on the screen here.
But for those who joined late, we have a different setup today than we normally do because of the hearing that's happening tomorrow. So that's why everything's a little out of sorts.
Yeah. And then my Microsoft got reconfigured as well for some reason on my.
Also, why we're all stacked behind each other.
Yes,
we're
you can't see us.
Room.
Okay, sorry about that. So yes, so we've had some recent collaboration with Bridge to the Mountains, and we're working additionally on the homelessness protections we're collaborating with the Human Rights City Alliance right now. Our investigator Dave is actually working with them, as well as our intern Amelia. We're going to be co-hosting a screening, a film screening. Oh goodness. And I just said Bridge to the Mountains and now I'm forget it's Beyond the Bridge. Thank you. Beyond the Bridge in late April. And we will touch on that again, like during the director's report. And I don't have a firm date or time or anything for that yet, but they are hoping to get the August Wilson Center for that. And that'll include a panel discussion as well, so that we can explore more of what we can do to be supportive here in Pittsburgh and better protect our most vulnerable folks. Let's see.
Housing protections and so can everyone hear me?
Yes. Do you want to talk about the tabling that's going to be coming up? Some of the tabling opportunities. I know we were getting out into the community a little bit more.
Yeah. So the biggest thing is that we're going to have a community-based commission meeting for our next meeting. So April 7th will be posted at the north side, the Allegheny Library. And we'll be there from 6 to 8 p.m. So that we can have our regular business meeting, which should be fairly short, and then be able to follow that up with a presentation of what the local protections for discrimination are here in Pittsburgh, since most people just are not familiar with them, and then exploring the potential for additional protections like the housing status or criminal history, et cetera.
And just to add, for anyone who may be tuning. So the housing protection status is we are currently talking to some folks who work with unhoused and people who are experiencing homelessness at the moment, and they are working to help us collect information to see where housing status, folks who are experiencing homelessness, where that intersects with other protections that we have, to see where a person's housing status may be used as reason to discriminate against them on the basis of race, on the basis of being a survivor of domestic violence. If we were to get housing status added as a protection to the city code, and that would essentially mean that, at least in housing anyway, that you couldn't discriminate against someone who is seeking housing, has the ability to pay for that housing, has the means to actually be able to acquire housing, but who has any gaps in their housing history that can be accounted for by periods of having been homeless. At the very least, a lot of the advocates we have talked to have said that that would help them in terms of they're being able to find placement for people that they're working with, because then they wouldn't have to worry about the gaps in that person's housing history if they are able to get the funding to help that person have a place to move into, or that family have a place to move into. So the practical effect would be that it would make it a lot easier right out of the gate for people who have the means to afford housing to be able to get that housing in an emergency situation, or as I said, if they're able to come up with all of the other expenses, but have that gap in their housing history. It's certainly something that, having talked to a lot of our community partners, people they work with have had to deal with that in the past. And we see housing history increasingly being something that a lot of local large corporate landholders are asking for in terms of new tenant applications and stuff like that. So that's the purpose behind that. I know that the screening of these meetings is relatively new, thanks to City Channel. So anyone who needs to be brought up to speed on that, that's kind of the overview.
Great, thank you. I know we have some other things going on in the community relations, but I'm going to move on to the director's report, just so that, because I know some of those things are covered in there.
They are, yeah. All right, so I was confirmed as a member of the Gender Equity Commission. They have not met yet, so I'm still waiting for additional details on that. I'm not sure if they have quorum yet, but I was able to actually connect with some other folks who had either previously worked with the Gender Equity Commission or are hoping to be reconfirmed as members sometime soon. So that was at the Racial Justice Summit, but I'll get a little bit more into that. I was able to connect with Amanda Nietrauer for our strategic planning contract at the Racial Justice Summit. And actually, I just signed that contract today. So we should have that fully executed in the next couple of weeks. What I'm going to ask is that the commissioners watch for a poll from me to find a good time for us to review the SOAR survey results. This is where we basically left off almost a year ago now, where we had polled the staff and the commissioners for what was working, what's not working, what do we need to change about the commission with our strategic planning process. So that'll be the way that we kick this off. So again, I'll send out a poll in email for the commissioners to try and find a good time to get as many of us as possible. It will be virtual though, so it should be a little bit easier to achieve that. But yeah, so very excited to hear that. And then, yeah, in the way of like a personnel update, this is the personnel update, is that I was able to connect with Darius Wallace again about the commissioner appointments. And there were two appointed last week. They were on the agenda for Tuesday. I haven't seen them up for interview or confirmation or anything yet, but Richard Morris, who used to be a member of the commission, formerly of the Urban League, he was the director of housing over there and just retired. And then Isabel Ruiz Flint. Very excited to have some new folks coming on and some repeat folks, because they'll bring a really interesting perspective to the work that we're currently doing and the strategic planning process, I think. So good updates. There are also 3 others that Darius mentioned that should be in the pipeline to get submitted to council. We're just waiting for that to actually happen. So I'll update as I can. We'll be trying to get orientation scheduled. So if anyone wants to participate in that, just to give more of a feel for what the committees look like, what the sections look like, then that would be helpful. All right, so cases. As of the 24th, we had 38 open investigations, 21 pending intakes, 38 cases that are awaiting a response and then would get assigned. We have 8 pending mandatory conciliations, so that number is dropping, thankfully. We have 3 cases in court, so they're holding steady. And then the 4 cases on public hearing, that's going to change. We have some updates as of this week, so stay tuned, public hearing section for that. And then compliance review has 20 cases this month to review. So apologies after sending that packet. But 4 of them were settlements. So we're pretty happy about that. We do have, a significant portion of the cases that go to compliance review that are settlements. And that's what we want. We want people to be able to walk away with a remedy, something that's going to work for them and for whoever caused the harm in the first place. We've been doing a lot of connecting with other commissions recently. We had Marla Fuller from the Office of Human Relations in Cincinnati reach out to us. So Chris and I spoke with her. Their department is unfortunately under fire at the moment. They used to have a larger staff. They are currently down to 2 people, and the city is looking to phase them out in favor of a sort of different type of agency. So we're going to try to stay connected with them and see if we can offer any support as they're in this weird transition period. And that's kind of what we're seeing from a lot of different commissions right now. Commissioner Rossolo was kind enough to connect me with some folks from the Greater Pittsburgh League of Women Voters, and we had a nice presentation about the commission last week. Got to give them some information on what our Know Your Rights project looks like, and I do have to reconnect with all those folks after the fact and send them some handouts and everything.
They really enjoyed that, so thank you for doing that.
Yeah, anytime. Yeah, I really appreciate when people want to listen to me give my commission spiel. I was contacted by a student from the University of Florida. She and her professor are working on a human rights podcast that they would like to do, highlighting different human rights cities across the country. I had a good conversation with them last week, and we're probably going to move forward on that. Being a civil rights agency that's 70 years in the making, we have some history to go through, and I think a lot to bring to the table, even though it's not a full-scale human rights body. So we're going to talk more with them, and I was able to give them some resources as well because they weren't aware of IORA, and that'll definitely give them a nice list of agencies that they can reach out to that would be really willing to engage in this project. There was a meeting, it was a convening of other fair employment practices agencies. This was brought up by the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights. Their director offered at the last EEOC meeting to just have a separate conversation, talk about how we can support each other in this region and things that we can do just amongst each other that maybe without EEOC's help, to just, be there for each other, share ideas, and just, even vent the struggles, because we're all dealing with the same sorts of things right now. We were highlighting the fact that the gender identity and expression protections are under fire, and how different agencies are handling that. They are starting to see denials of dual filing of those cases. So it's getting very real. And we aren't sure yet what that will mean for contracts or anything like that. We did kind of, hypothesize a little bit about what that would look like in the coming months, but who knows for sure. Just waiting to see. We actually have an EEOC meeting again tomorrow, so we'll see what the updates they have for us. But there was a lot of talk about case management systems as well. So I was able to follow up with Danielle from Baltimore City, Maryland. They are another staff that has just dwindled. I think they usually have 5, and they're down to 2 as well. And they're just trying to hire, but they're getting held up in the posting process for the with their city. So they're trying. They have a really not nice case management system right now. So they were interested in we have with Creatio. So I was able to walk through that with them and get them connected to David Lasher over at Keen 360 and see if that's something that we can support them with. My goal would be to just export what we have with our case management and portal system as a framework for them, so that they can take that and run with it and make it their own with whatever protections they have in their locality. That way they don't have to rebuild from ground up, because it took a lot of time. And then we also connected with Reading, PA. So they have 1 investigator over there. They have a staff of 4. And their investigator is new and was asking for some guidance about how we conduct our investigations, how they could possibly get their numbers up. We also talked about the case management system briefly. But I ultimately ended up sending her a couple of the templates that we have here that were created by some of our staff members that have been really useful, and we've been able to share them with a number of other commissions now to help them with their process. And then I got that investigator connected with one of our investigators, Lauren, so that they can have more of a conversation about what the investigative methods look like and how to be effective in your interviewing, et cetera. Because when you're just getting started out, it can be really difficult. And then, as I mentioned, I was able to connect with Sam Salopek of PA Women Work. She's one of the ones that was very interested and connected with the Gender Equity Commission previously, and she works with PA Women Work. So we're talking about getting together to try and do some training for their staff and their clients. So I have to reconnect with her on that.
That's great. It's great to hear all of the things that you and the staff are doing, and it's just like really really encouraging to hear all the work that you're able to do to help other people in this time, especially.
Thank you. Yeah, when I'm putting together, I kind of just build these reports out as the month goes on. And I couldn't believe how large it became this month, like how many different people I was talking to. But when you're thrown into a crisis state, the way that a lot of the commissions have been, it ends up bringing us all a little bit closer together, I think, because we can only lean on each other. If the people that brought us together, if like the agencies that brought us together are no longer supportive, then what else do you do? So and I just have to highlight again how lucky we are to be the commission that we are and to have the support that we do and to be able to enforce the laws the way that we do, because a lot of commissions just do not have that. They can make recommendations, and those recommendations often just go to sit on somebody's desk and then go nowhere. So we have a very good setup here in Pittsburgh. So with education and outreach, I was able to talk to the Western PA Employment Lawyers Association. Rachel McElroy invited me to come and talk about the protections that the commission offers. And then we highlighted the medical marijuana protections in particular. And then we wanted to talk also about like the differences between the commission, our commission and the EEOC, because there are some differences there. So I'll make sure to send them the link once we finally get around to scheduling our next employment CLE, so that they can get on that list as well. Chris has been continuing to attend, like I said, the Homeless Outreach Coordinating Committee meetings, trying to collect that data from the providers that are out there working on the ground with the unhoused community, so that we can try to build up what we have on our end to take those protections and really drive them home. Oh, our CityCast podcast segment came out. I think I forgot to, I definitely forgot to put it in here, but it did come out.
So good. You and Chris, you both did such a great job, and it was really nice to hear you get the word out about the commission. And I'm sure if the other commissioners haven't shared it yet with all their networks, please do that, because it's really a good listen.
Thank you. Yeah, we were pretty happy with how it turned out. I mean, we had our we had our doubts as the folks left for the day, but it ended up coming out very well. And really, yeah, that's the goal. We just want to, it doesn't matter if I'm speaking perfectly well about the commission, but I mean, if there's anything that I know at this point, it is the commission. So
I think you could hear your commitment to the work through the things that you said. And as someone who has to record themselves all the time, you have to just get over how your voice sounds, because you sound very different whenever you hear your own voice. But the more important thing was the message, and you definitely did a nice job on that. So well done.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I really owe it to the Housing Justice Table. They took advantage of CityCast when they were really driving home the inclusionary zoning provisions that they were trying to get passed. And that was my introduction to CityCast. So being able to take advantage of that, and they were very eager to follow up with us and get us scheduled, and they were very interested in what we do. So it's a step. Every little step counts. I'm still working with Dante Washington from NeighborWorks. We're trying to get involved in their home buyer workshops that they do. And I believe they happen bi-weekly, and they do them in different locations. They do some virtually, but because we have different things to offer in the way of like the discrimination protections around home buying, they wanted to be able to roll us into the process. So I'm exploring that a little bit further with them. Unfortunately, our disability immersion training that we had scheduled with the ADA coordinator for the city had to be rescheduled. We just couldn't get everybody that on staff in the same place at the same time. So we are going to get that rescheduled, and I'll let the commissioners know when that happens, so that if you do have the time to participate, then you can do that. Let's see. On Friday last week, I was able to give a presentation to Neighborhood Legal Service. They have their staff meeting at 3 o'clock on a Friday, which I thought was peculiar, but they invited me to come and talk about the domestic violence protections that we have under Pittsburgh City Code. Lots of good questions. It's always difficult as a non-lawyer to get into a room full of lawyers and try to explain the law. But it turns out that I do often know more about what's going on in the city code than they do. But the questions are good. I want to know, if there is something that doesn't make sense, if there's something that doesn't quite jive, then we want to be able to review that. Particularly now, we're trying to really clarify the city code and make sure that everything is updated appropriately so that people can really understand it and know that they have the protections, and so that we can really be able to enforce those without any kind of challenge. Let's see. When I was talking with Darius, he got me connected with someone in the neighborhood services division of the mayor's office. So I was able to share some handouts with them so that when they go in and out of the community, they can share those with the people that might need them. So again, just making our way, infiltrating the different city departments with our tiny pamphlets, just to see if, because they have a lot of one-on-one interactions with the public, and they might not have that tool in their toolbox right now. So if we can add that, then that's for the best. Let's see. I did inquire. So Jeff, our investigator Jeff, had suggested that we reach out to Pittsburgh Live today to inquire about maybe having a conversation with them on air again about the commission. I haven't heard anything, but I don't know how long their inbox might look at this point. So I'll try to follow up sometime in the next week or so and see if that's a possibility for us. We've been having, we had one big staff outreach meeting so far when we had it during a regular staff meeting, because I really do want to hear from everybody. We've been hearing from the community relations committee about their ideas and what they want to what they would like to see from the staff in the way of outreach and advertising and things like that. And we like to roll those ideas back in, but I want to hear from the staff as well, because I had never thought about Pittsburgh Live today until Jeff mentioned it. So, every voice counts, and I really want to make sure that we're covering all of our bases and anything that we can possibly get our foot in the door so that we can get the name out.
Absolutely. That's wonderful to hear staff contributing to those ideas as well, because you're also doing the work. So I appreciate those perspectives.
I'm going to skip over the point with Jake Pollock really quickly, just so I can breeze through the rest of this, and then I'll let Chris help me with what our conversation looked like. We actually ended up having that conversation today. So yeah, I want to touch on that again. But we were able to attend the Racial Justice Summit on the 22nd, well attended as always over on the north side at the CCAC. And we were actually able to finally connect with Ron Adoko. So he invited us to come and be a part of this Racial Equity Consciousness Institute resource platform. So I still have to submit, it's a pretty lengthy form that I need to fill out about the commission and the work that we do and what we offer, but that will ultimately be a location where people can go to find resources to support them in any kind of racial inequity. So I'm really glad that we were able to finally meet. He and I have been playing email tag for a while. And then Chairperson Collins was able to do the Black History Month special interview for Championship Chase. So Ty Miller invites us every year. We usually do a spot during the regular football season, then they do a special for Black History Month. So if anyone hasn't heard that, please go listen. The whole special is great. But Tiara, thank you again for being able to, talk with Ty and get more information about the commission out there during something that's very relevant when we're talking about Black history.
And I'm sure she did a great job because she is awesome. I'll have to go listen to that. I haven't listened to it yet.
Mhm. Okay. I know. I'm sorry. It's so long this month. I really felt like it was almost over. Special projects. I'm sorry. City code and the rules and regs. We're working with our solicitor Falco on those. We did finalize the civil rights portion of our code. We were looking to add all the protected classes in there and change some language around to keep people from being barred from filing with us as well as OMI at the same time. That's Office of Municipal Investigations, because you can cross file for that with them because of the process of city services, and then with us for the discrimination in city services. So we have that submitted. That was something that JAM actually submitted to Erica Strasburger before he left, and she just brought it back to my attention earlier this year. So I sent her the final version. I haven't heard anything back yet, but we'll get that on council and try to get that passed so that we can get that updated. And we're working on the rules and regulations. Again, we're trying to make it a more equitable process for our pro se complainants, the ones who just cannot come with representation, even at the public hearing level, because there are just so many roadblocks in the regular legal process. So we're trying to flesh that out a little bit more, make it a little easier to understand, and make sure that everybody has that information right off the bat when they come to file with the commission, because right now they don't, unless they go looking for it. We don't really submit it to them until we go to a public hearing, and then we have to distribute it to them.
Rachel, if it would be helpful
Yes.
to have the motions commissioner help with that, he has some thoughts.
All right, motions commissioner. I very much appreciate that. So yeah, I'll roll you into our next meeting. I think we had that scheduled for like late March, but let me reconnect with you on that.
Yeah, happy to. I definitely have a lot of thoughts on that because I've been, as you know, digging into the rules and regulations a lot more recently.
Yes, I need the perspective because, being a non-lawyer, again, I'm looking at it from a non-lawyer perspective where I want to be able to have it be generalized enough that a complainant who has no legal experience can understand it and to be able to process that. But also we want to make sure that the lawyers understand what's going on too, and that any questions they have can be addressed. Yeah, specifically that like motion for summary judgment piece and things like that. So yes, I will include you in that. Thank you. 311 has a new platform. We're working to get ourselves added to that because we're just not on there right now. So if you search discrimination or hate or anything else tangentially related to discrimination, it doesn't come up, unfortunately. I know that there's like bugs to work out with a new system. I understand what it's like to build a new system from scratch, but we're working on that right now. Chris is actually working to put together some search terms and things to send back over to them so that we can get reintegrated in that. I'm not done with the LGBTQIA plus housing research report yet. I'm only about a third of the way through reviewing it, unfortunately, just because the public hearing stuff has been consuming my life. But we'll get through that and I'll be able to get you a final copy of it so that we can distribute and start working towards a more specific education and outreach plan on that. And then likewise with the annual report, I just got Kevin some of the statistics from Creatio, which we had to run in various ways through the system. So I gave those to him. We're working on getting all the statistics up and running and get those input. And then we'll hopefully have a good draft before our next meeting for you all. On that note, Chairperson Collins, I need a letter from you for that. And if you have questions about what to add to that, I would connect with Liddy because she has been there and done that. All right, I added this section only because there's absolutely so many things happening in the next month, and I wanted to make sure that all the commissioners just have the details. So I already mentioned the commission meeting. There's the more of the details there, and we do have a flyer that I included. I tried to include as many flyers as possible in the commission meeting packet so that you can see for yourself what is going on and where, but also you can share that with your networks. The next Fair Housing for Landlords training is going to be held on March 21st. It's going to be 9:30 to 1:30 at the Cohatch in the Southside Works. We already have about eight different people signed up for it, but we're hoping to really pack the room. So if you know anybody who might even remotely be interested in fair housing and learning more about that here in Pittsburgh, please send it to them. There is a registration. We will have snacks. If anyone needs an accommodation of any sort, they can reach out to us and let us know. But we want to really make sure that this is like a really big, we usually only get like a handful of folks to come to these things, but we want to make sure that it's a higher volume this time, especially like bordering Fair Housing Month. Chris was able to coordinate with the Access Mob to get us a presentation on what is the commission on March 24th. So I'm excited that we'll be able to do that. There's also, that's going to be in the East Liberty Carnegie Library and at 5 p.m. And I believe there's also a virtual option, but it is in person if you're interested. The commission is co-sponsoring the Fair Housing Summit with the Human Rights City Alliance again. That was at the Frick Fine Arts Building last year. It will be there again this year. So all day, 9 to 4 on April 5th. I could use some assistance tabling. So if anyone has any time that day, please let me know. We can try to work out a schedule. I always try to fill in all the gaps with staff members, but if commissioners can also be there to be a second person at the table and just to meet the community members that have questions, that would also be wonderful. We have a panel at that event as well. So if anyone's interested in like learning more about that or participating, let me know. The Allegheny County Anchored Reentry Summit is on April 25th. They had a really great program last year. I didn't know about it with enough time to request a table that time, but this time we do have one. So I'll be tabling that day, but the program itself is also very, very good. Anything having to do with folks who are recently incarcerated, returning to the community, the process with getting new jobs, getting community services, getting housing, really good conversation last year. So I highly encourage people to attend that if you can. It is free, and they have that. I think that is also at the CCAC on the north side. David and Amelia are working on that Beyond the Bridge, a solution to homelessness film screening. I'll get more information as soon as we have that available for that. And then finally, the Pennsylvania Commission is hosting their annual Housing Equity Conference in April. It'll be on April 8th. I believe it's at the Wyndham downtown, but I did include that flyer as well. We're going to be doing some tabling at that, but they also mentioned doing something like lightning round presenting, where you would do like 10 minutes on a particular subject of new or emerging housing issues. So I'm plotting how I want to use that 10 minutes now, because it's not a very long piece of time, but we'll see what we can get done. It was good conversation last year. We had our domestic violence panel last year, and there were a lot of folks that were pretty interested in that. Okay, now the meeting with Jake Pollock today, which I was very thankful to get, and thank you to Chris for making that connection at the Welcoming Communities meeting. We weren't sure quite what to expect, but really it's more of just exploring the status of the commission in the current atmosphere that we're in. We elaborated on the fact that like our contracts are steady for now, but we have no idea what might happen with them. The state of like what's happening with dual filing our cases. What else am I missing? My throat is not happy right now.
How we might be able to fill in some of the gaps that, I mean, both kind of pre-existed. The federal retreat, I believe, are the words that Epidemic used, and I think that's a good. The federal retreat from certain areas of civil rights enforcement, and how we can then step in to work both with what we have, but then work with other agencies within the city to fill in some of those gaps. It was a productive conversation, and you all know me. If it weren't, I'd come up with a more ominous sounding adjective than productive, but it was a productive conversation. So.
Yeah, getting an opportunity to ask what the administration wants from us, like would like to see from us, and having them say like, no, just keep doing what you're doing, is encouraging. But also like them asking, what do you need? is something that never happens. And I really appreciate the fact that we were able to sit down and have that conversation, because we don't want to, we're not making demands. We just would like some support. And I don't think that's too much to ask. That is it for the director's report, and I will be quiet now.
No, thank you so much. That was very thorough. And I know that the last couple of months have felt like a lot, multiple months in 1 month. So, and it's clear you've been working very hard. Commissioner Barlow, you have a question. But you're still on mute, so.
I'm still on mute, sorry. So in your meeting today, when asked what the commission needs, did you raise the question around perhaps more commissioners?
I mentioned that I was very thankful to have the connections with Darius Wallace and talking through like what we need in commissioners, and having him actually be responsive to that and learning more about the commission and what we actually need, because that is getting us where we need. But I did try to put it in perspective. Like we have 5 vacancies, we have people that are running on expired terms and they're just waiting for replacement, and that we need to have a full roster of commissioners to be able to conduct business, because we have the compliance review section that has very important business, and then public hearing, which is also very important business. And if we can't enforce the law with those sections doing what they do, then what are we doing? The laws are no good unless they're enforced. So he was receptive to that.
Now I'm on mute talking. Does anyone else have any questions? All right, so we can move on with our agenda. Our next agenda item is old business. Is that correct? I don't have my agenda up. I was using yours and oh, see, I was right. It was old business. I don't have any old business. Does anyone else have any old business to cover? Chairperson Collins, are you able to talk now? Do you want to take over this meeting? You're welcome to.
Hi, how are you? I was actually searching for the agenda.
I know, I was just kind of going off of my memory there. Old business. Did we have any old business that we need to cover? I feel like we've covered so much. And any new business then? I'm sure more new business will show itself as we continue to do the work. So if there's no old business or new business, I'm gonna see if there's anyone else who's joined us who may have any other comments to add. Public comment, no, it looks like it's just all of us. So then may I have a motion to adjourn?
Since I only joined this meeting 4 minutes ago, I will make the motion to adjourn.
See, thanks. That's what matters. And may I have a second?
Well, I joined it 5 minutes ago, so I'll second.
Perfect. Wonderful. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
I feel like objecting just to keep them on longer. Aye.
Well, without any further ado, I call this no, not motion to order. Adjourned. We're adjourned.